Good morning, everybody. Who out there is a caregiver? And of those, how many are women? Way more than 50% of the caregiving is provided by women. That's going to be the subject of our conversation this morning. First, let me tell you, welcome to the Oldish TV. My name is Karen Brown, and as always, it is my pleasure to welcome you. I'm the publisher and editor of the Oldish. Now, today finds me at the conclusion of the Ontario Home Builders Association Awards in Collingwood, Ontario. And what a great few days it was to attend sessions, to listen to and experience the passion that our builders feel as they build beautiful spaces for us to live in. Now, you know, here we talk a great deal about housing that needs to adapt to the needs of the population as they age. Generally speaking, that translates into something called universal design. So at the top of the show, I'm just going to put a call out to builders to pay more attention to universal design, and to those who decide on nominees for awards, maybe we could think a little bit about offering nominations in a category that is specifically around universal design. What do you think about that? I think it's not a bad idea to bring it to the forefront that way. Now then, what I want to talk to you about today is caregiving. You know, as a woman who is of a certain age, as many of our viewers are, I have seen great advancements in the workforce that have been made by women. Glass ceilings have been broken all over the place. Yet, as our families age, it is largely women who have been called on to provide caregiving duties, far more than men, even if it is the family of the man in the relationship. It's still the wife or the female partner who tends to be tasked with taking care of people and nursing them, if you will, through their old age. Women give up careers, promotions, all kinds of things in order to accomplish this. Let me show you an article that we published last week. It's this one, Caregiving's Impact on Working Women. And it really struck a chord with me. Let's just scroll up a little bit here. Here we go. Many middle-aged women have cut back their hours or left their job entirely to care for an aging parent with chronic health problems. Yes, that is absolutely true, and that shows no sign of abating, which is very concerning. Now, the reports are noting that indeed men do provide care, just not nearly as much as the women do. 1 in 5 adults between the ages of 55 and 64 are caregivers, at least part-time, for an older relative. Now, I don't mean to actually read this article to you, but I can see how many times it has been read, and I feel that our readers need to have their attention drawn to it and perhaps give a little thought to this. The time away from work is having a significant impact on women, and this is, of course, just at a time in our society and in our workforce culture when women are having greater financial success, but they find themselves having to step away. Now, of course, it's not only that the men are not participating as much. Very often what we find are families that are in denial about the state of affairs with mom or dad. I hear this so often where there may be multiple siblings, and some of the siblings are in absolute denial, or they live a little bit of a distance away but never seem to make it home. They have these great vacations, but they don't seem to be able to take a few days and come and assist with the care of mom or dad or both. These are family dynamic questions, which of course have to be answered, but I'm not going to pretend to you that that's none of our business. Of course it is. Of course it is. I advocate constantly for families to have open, honest discussion. And the reality is that if siblings live a bit of a distance away, that's no excuse for not participating. There are lots of ways to participate, among them with your physical presence or with your money. You can pay to have somebody come and relieve the primary caregiver. Let them have a vacation. Let them get out for a day and take care of things. Let somebody else take them to doctor's appointments. You know, it is a huge burden, and we have discussed this before on this show. It is not uncommon for caregivers to develop chronic illnesses of their own, indeed, even to pass away before the person to whom they are providing care, because it is so taxing physically and emotionally and psychologically for caregivers to provide the kind of care that they do. They love their families, of course they do, and they want what's best for them. However, part of what goes along with doing that is that as the person who is being cared for requires an increasing amount of care, the caregiver tends to withdraw from life. It's not that they want to necessarily, it's just that there's nobody to spell them off. They become socially isolated. Their friends kind of fall away because, we don't see so and so that much anymore. I don't know where she is, but they have their own lives, and they find it very difficult, increasingly, to intrude on a situation that can be somewhat less than social. Let's go back to the article here. So this is a United States study that was done, and it's mentioning that there is a need for policies to help adults in the workforce care for children, sick, or elderly family members, and women in particular, so that they will not continue to suffer the loss of wages and the workforce continue to shrink. Caregiving does take a financial toll. Seniors with dementia may need round-the-clock supervision. Yes, and that is very true, that they do need round-the-clock supervision when they get to a certain point in their disease. Sundowning, for instance, is a very difficult time in a day for a caregiver to cope with a dementia patient. They can often be up in the middle of the night wandering around, and of course there's the worry that they'll walk out the door and become lost. Consequently, caregivers have a very difficult time getting a good night's sleep. If they can't get a good night's sleep and they're only focused on caregiving, it's very difficult for them to devote energy to friends, much less a job, no matter what kind of job it is. But if it's a responsible job in any sense of the word, then it becomes virtually impossible. So I would like to hear from you, our readers. I read very many caregiving stories on other Facebook pages and magazines that I subscribe to. It's a desperate situation. Now it's a desperate situation at this moment, and it's not going to get better. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of people waiting for spaces in long-term care facilities. By and large, new long-term care facilities are not being built to accommodate people. Yes, they are being built, but not to the extent that they're needed. And in part, I understand that. Look at what has happened to our schools. Back in the day, schools were built. Every community, it seems, had a school. Now that the population has declined, the population of students, the school buildings are emptied. Kids are being bused to the local school in order to have the right number of students to be able to afford the teachers to be there and teach them. And the school buildings have just gone empty. So they don't want to be in that situation with long-term care facilities. I can understand that. There are other options. There are options. Community daycare, co-housing, multi-unit low-rise apartments. There are all kinds of alternatives to having an actual long-term care facility that can accommodate a few hundred people or maybe even 1,000 people. And yes, there are facilities that can do that. What we really have to work on is taking the burden off of family caregivers who are unpaid, who care desperately. Yes, they love their families. They can also come to resent them because the burden is so, so great. And they give up so much to care for these people. Tell us your stories. Tell us what you feel needs to be done in the industry where you may work or may have worked. Tell us what kind of government policies you would like to see. It's an election year in Canada. We will be electing a new prime minister next month, October. In the US, you have an election next year. I know it's kind of contentious. Anyway, if you're an American citizen and you watch our show, let us know what you would like your representatives to be considering where it concerns the care of aging seniors and the the benefits that need to be extended to the working class people who are looking after their aging seniors. What kind of changes need to be made in the job market? Now, when we talk about changes in the job market, I know that one thing that is talked about from time to time is having paid leave. That's a very difficult subject because small business can't afford to pay someone who's not there at the same time as they pay someone to replace them. So who's going to pay the bill? Should the taxpayers pay the bill? Should this be an employment insurance option where you get a prescribed period of time and you can go on employment insurance or unemployment insurance depending on where you are? It varies in name. What is the solution? Help us figure it out. Let's continue the discussion below in the comments in Facebook. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we can have the discussion there as well. That is our show for today. Perhaps not as much information as we sometimes pose, but really this is a situation that requires input from you, our viewers and our readers. Go and read that article at theoldish.com and let us know what you think. Until we meet again next week, do take care of one another and remember that it takes a village to age a senior.